An animal rights protester has entered his 62nd day without food in protest at animal experiments. Barry Horne, who's serving an 18-year prison sentence for arson, has gone blind and lost nearly half his body weight. He says he's prepared to die unless the government sets up a royal commission into vivisection.
Hi, and welcome back to Animal Liberation TV. So this is one of the short podcasts that I mentioned I was going to be doing in the I'm Back podcast, which I did uploaded last night. This one is going to be about a demo for Barry Horne to mark his 20th anniversary. So Barry Horne was an animal liberation activist, prisoner and hunger striker, and if you want to know all about him, podcast 3, I do quite a detailed explanation of the history of his activism and hunger strikes and all that sort of business. So check that out. I'm not going to go on too much about that at this point. So yeah, Barry died in prison in 2001 on hunger strike against animal experiments, and he died from the effects of a 68-day hunger strike in 1998 that he carried out. Yeah, 2001 he died, so that makes this year his 20th anniversary of his death. So I believe that that's a very important landmark for the movement. It's something that should be recognised because of his efforts and sacrifices. So I do believe that this is an event that needs to be marked. His 10-year anniversary, that had a demo in Huntingdon Town Centre, and then we had a march around the town centre, and then we went to HLS, now called Covance, contract testing labs in Cambridgeshire, notorious lab. So we marked the 10-year anniversary, and we've organised something for the 20th anniversary. So yeah, the importance of the day. The reason why we need to mark it is because of the sacrifice and efforts that he put in. Barry gave his life for animal liberation, and so I think that is something that we should definitely make well known to animal rights sympathisers and animal advocates, because a lot of people in the wider animal rights movement, the vegan scene, still don't know about Barry. A lot of people don't know about Barry. So it's always important to carry on highlighting his work. His efforts and sacrifice leave a real legacy that we can still use as a tool even 20 years later to help the movement grow, because he created such an impact with his actions and his hunger strikes that the legacy he's left is something that we can build on to help grow and radicalise this movement. So even 20 years later, his sacrifices and his work have such reverberations throughout time that we can still utilise that, and we can still use his actions to help the animals. I do firmly believe that. Another thing that's very important is that the Barry demo is being carried out in solidarity with the MBR Beagle campaign, because that's down the road from Huntingdon. Barry was on, it used to be called Interfauna, MBR Acres Beagle Supplies used to be called Interfauna, and in 1990 Barry was part of a raid on Interfauna where 82 beagles and 26 or 36 rabbits were taken as well, and he played an outstanding role that night. John Curtin, who's an old standing animal liberation activist and ex-prisoner, he's often talked about how Barry was on that raid with him, and how Barry kept going and carrying the animals, encouraging everyone else to keep going to make sure they got as many animals out as possible. And that's kind of symbolic of Barry's attitude. He was a go-getter, he was determined, he was focused, he was 100% focused on animal liberation. So it's fitting that we should link this up with the MBR Beagle campaign to help highlight that, because Barry was very much part of that. He also, apart from being on the Interfauna raid, MBR raid in 1990, he was given 3 years for possession of explosives in 91, and that was for an action destined for Covance. So which is in Huntingdon Life Sciences, down the road from MBR Beagles. They were all set up by the same people. It's a dirty, dirty money-making business. They're all in together, MBR Beagles and Covance. And Barry was quite focused on Huntingdon Life Sciences, HLS, as Covance used to be called. So, yeah, I mean, the reason Interfauna have changed their name to MBR, and the reason why Covance is now Covance and not HLS, it's not just because different companies have taken over and whatever. It's to change their names so that the past and the pressure they've had from animal rights people in the past is kind of forgotten about. Oh, who's Interfauna? Well, Interfauna don't exist anymore, do they? They're MBR. Covance are now what HLS is called. You know, it doesn't matter what names they give themselves. They're the same buildings and the same atrocious, barbaric things are going on inside. So I think it's very important to link this in with the MBR campaign. I mean, really, I'd like to see this Barry Day be international. So I'm hoping for viewers of this channel who aren't in the UK, if you could organise something yourselves for this Barry Day, that would be amazing. And if you can't make it to Huntingdon for the demo, which I'm going to tell you all about in a minute from this leaflet about it, I'm going to give you the details. You can do something in your town or city. You know, a banner drop, a stall, some leaflets, some photos outside your local university lab. I don't know, anything you want. You know, maybe just you holding a picture of Barry up. But you know, if you can do something to mark this day, it'd be very good for all of us. So here's a leaflet about the demo, and then there's stuff on the back. So even though you've probably heard some of the stuff on the back, I'm going to talk about, for people who haven't heard me talking about Barry that much, I'm going to go through everything on this leaflet, so because I can't give you a leaflet through the screen, so I'm going to read out what's on it. Barry Horne 20-year anniversary. There's a picture of my good old mate Barry. March demo, day of action, Saturday the 6th of November. So the 6th of November, everyone, that's the date you should keep in your diary. Meet midday outside Huntingdon Library, Huntingdon Town Centre. For some of us, animal liberation is a war we intend to win. Barry Horne, 1993. And then on the back it gives a bit of an explanation so people know what it's all about. Barry Horne was an animal liberation activist, prisoner and hunger striker who died in 2001 in prison on hunger strike against vivisection. 1988. Barry and others are arrested attempting to liberate Rocky the dolphin from Marineland, Morecambe. The subsequent campaign led to the release of Rocky and the ending of captive dolphins in the UK. 1990. Barry and others raid Interfauna breeders, now MBR Acres Limited. Animals to be sold for labs for toxicity testing down the road at Huntingdon Life Sciences, HLS, now Covance. 82 beagles and 26 rabbits were liberated. 1991. Barry receives a 3-year prison sentence for possession of explosive substances, an action that was to be directed at HLS, now Covance. 1994. Barry launches a high street arson campaign against companies involved in vivisection, mainly Boots the chemist. Oxford, Cambridge, York, Harrogate, Newport and Ryde on the Isle of Wight were all targeted. Boots stores were gutted and his actions helped push Boots into selling their animal testing labs. 1996. Barry is arrested in Bristol city centre planting incendiary devices in stores after a huge-scale police operation. 1997. January. Barry carries out a 35-day hunger strike against vivisection to help bring it back onto the movement's agenda. As a result, demonstrations, liberations and direct action increase. 1997 August. Barry carries out a 46-day hunger strike with more actions carried out to support him and a protest camp set up at HLS programs. The government promises change regarding vivisection. Yeah. 1997 November, Barry is sentenced to an outrageous 18-year prison sentence, the longest ever given at that point. And in fact, I was there at that sentencing, and I talk about that in podcast 3 because we kind of kicked off in the court and we had to get chucked out by the police. 1998, Barry carries out a 68-day hunger strike demanding that the new Labour government honours its pre-election pledge of a royal commission into vivisection. This was global news at the time. And it was huge. It was a huge event. 2001, November the 5th, Barry dies on hunger strike against vivisection from the damage of the 68-day hunger strike. As a friend and an activist, he is still sorely missed by his friends and the movement. Remember Barry and carry on his good fight. Join us for Day of Action Against Vivisection. Wear black clothes, hoods, gloves and masks in respect for Barry and the animals. Bring whistles, megaphones, banners. Okay, so he died on the 5th, but the 5th is a Friday, bonfire night, which I know I say this all the time, but I just think what a fitting date for an arsonist to die on November the 5th, bonfire night. I mean, the only thing it kind of ruined bonfire night for the last 20 years, you know, and which was a shame because when my son was quite young, you know, he was 9 when Barry died, bonfire night, you know, was kind of a bit of a sad occasion. So I met up with some fellow activists and with their kids, and we always used to remember Barry while we were trying to kind of do a bonfire-y thing for the kids. But it was kind of always really a Barry day for us from then on. Yeah, so there's the details. I'm going to put the details up in some of the format as part of this video. So please try and do something in your town, city, or if you live outside of the UK, try and mark this day in some way in your country. So yeah, the reason why I'm not doing it on the 5th is it's a Friday, so the 6th is a Saturday the next day. That seems a good day because people won't be at work or whatever. And it's the nearest day to the 5th, which is the actual day. So if you do plan on coming to Huntingdon, which I'd encourage as many of you as possible in the UK to come, I feel like we need a show of force. But, you know, whatever, however many people come, we'll mark it respectfully. So we're hoping that veggies, food caterers who have been supplying burgers to demos up and down the UK for decades. I mean, Patrick from Veggies, he was at the MBR camp once or twice when I was down there. It was like, wow, you know, Jesus Christ, it's some of the same people that were around 30 years ago. So Veggies are hopefully going to be there. We're hoping to have speeches, an outside screen to show some films. I'm hoping that Jay Terrestrial from the Inner Terrestrials is going to come down and sing the Barry song. I've yet to confirm that, but I did see him at a festival a few weeks ago and spoke to him about it, and he offered. So I'm hoping that he'll come and sing the Barry Horne song. And various other things are planned. So please try and turn up for this event or do something in your area. It's such an important day, and I really feel like we need to mark it. Let's have a look here. I want to have a look at this off the wall here. Oop. Right, no, I'm guessing this was Shack stuff. Shack, yeah. Barry Horne Memorial Week of Action, Monday the 3rd of November to Sunday the November the 9th. This is, I think, 1 year after he died. So there's a whole week of action in, I guess, 2002. Okay, and then there's loads of information on the back as well there with stuff coming up and stuff you can do. If you don't act, you condone. If you don't fight, you don't win. I think. Yeah, but whether it's 1 or 2 sentences or some of his big longer rants, I just generally love what Barry says. I mean, you know, he was a great friend of mine. So, you know, there's always been stuff going on to highlight Barry's issue. As you can see, I've got loads of stuff relating to Barry all around the wall. and I'm still planning on pushing ahead with this feature-length film about him, which I'll talk in one of my other short podcasts coming up. So please, unless you've got an incredible family, commitment or a hospital appointment, I'd really kind of, I'm not going to plead or beg, but I'd really, ask you strongly if you can try and free up the 6th of November and make this a day in your diary, either to come to Huntingdon or, like I've said, do something in your town, city, or country even. So please come along and make this a big day for Barry, and most importantly for the animals who are still in these labs in MBR, so that we can create some sort of push forward again. We've got to keep the pressure on, and Barry certainly is a great tool and opportunity for us to do this, to come together and show some strength of force. Hopefully see you down in Huntingdon. Take care.
Through the months that followed and the work that we did, Barry Horne was someone that was never eliminated from the inquiry.
Witnesses claim to have seen a man with bad teeth wearing a black jacket, acting suspiciously a few hours before the fires broke out. That description fitted well-known activist and Orgla's friend, Barry Horne.